My name is Yusuf Kaka. I'm from MTN Group Innovation Strategy, and this is my colleague on the side, Diani from Geekulcha. We're doing this webinar to introduce whoever's interested in participating this weekend, a little bit about what TADHack is about, what you should be thinking about in preparation for the event, and maybe some tips on how to get going. We've got a few things to run through today. Just a little bit introduction into the event, but a bit about the theme that we've decided for this year, and then some of the practical aspects of how to participate. So just a little bit of background of why MTN is getting involved. Telephony Application Developer Hackathon is a worldwide event. It's happening in more than 30 countries at the same time. This year, we're expecting 4,000 plus participants. And South Africa, Johannesburg, is one of the biggest hosts. We already have over 200 registrations, and we're seeing how we can accommodate some of the people on the waiting list. So if you are one of those people on the waiting list, just hang on. We're still trying our best to accommodate everybody. So Telephony Application Developer Hackathon was initiated by a group of people in Europe. Alan Quayle is one of the founders of TADHack. And the reason for TADHack existing is to open up the telecoms industry and some of the good, excellent, amazing systems that we have to third parties and to developers outside of ourselves. So we've got really, really interesting technology that we invest in and that we build over time. And we can find only so many uses for it. However, if we open up those systems and those capabilities to everybody else, the amount of use cases are endless, right? So some of those capabilities that I referred to are things like messaging. We have messaging systems that allow ourselves and third parties to send SMSs and MMSs. We have location services which will allow you to track down the location of somebody who's got a cell phone. We've got payments API. So you may have an existing interesting application and you're struggling to monetize it. We may have a mechanism for you to be able to do that through our payments API. Now, traditionally, telcos are not really good at working with small third parties. We have processes in place and we have mechanisms for dealing with large partners. But it's becoming increasingly important that we work with smaller companies and startups and even the garage developer. So TADHack is a mechanism for us to push ourselves and push our capabilities in terms of working with startups to the point where we work with everybody out there. And this event allows us the opportunity to showcase what we have, to bring in some of our partners as well, and to give you the opportunity to mix and match our capability with our partners' capability and your own, and come up with some really good ideas. For TADHack 2018 Johannesburg, we wanted to use the opportunity to give to solve real challenges. We didn't want to just leave it out there and say use the technology for anything. We wanted to try and guide everybody that's participating to at least reflect on real world challenges that we face in South Africa, and more specifically here in Johannesburg. There's so many things that irk us personally, that are issues for ourselves and our family and our communities. And why not use this opportunity to take the technology that MTN is offering, to use platforms that our partners are providing, and come up with something that solves a real world challenge. You will find it personally rewarding, and hopefully one day maybe even financially rewarding, if that's the approach taken. So our theme, therefore, for this year in South Africa is democratizing the exponentials and technology for townships. Just to unpack that a little bit, the technology for townships part is self-explanatory. We want you to find challenges in the township, in your home scenario, and work on those. Exponentials. Exponential technology is a type of technology that is essentially, life-changing. It's technology which, everybody has a gut feel that this thing might change the world, but you don't see the impact of it straight away. It gradually comes in, and before you know it, it's taken over and disrupted the way we do things on a normal day-to-day basis. An example of this is cellular technology. Cell phones are a good example of a disruptive technology and an exponential technology. In the late 1990s, South Africa was a different place. More than 60% of our population in South Africa did not have access to basic telephony. Right, the guys that had access to telephony, it was a landline or a house phone, and the rest of the population struggled without. They had to walk kilometers to get to a public phone to just do simple things like phoning family and friends, or booking job appointments, or ordering simple things that we take for granted were really, really difficult to do in the 90s. And then somebody decided that there's this cool technology coming from the US and the UK, which makes telephones wireless, and this could be something that solves the connectivity problem in South Africa. And they brought this technology home and applied it to local challenges. And before you know it, the likes of MTN, Vodacom, with their cellular technology, had changed the landscape. Suddenly, you have the majority of people in our country with relatively easy access to telephony services. So we really value the power and the impact that that exponential technologies can have, which is why we're trying to encourage everybody else to look at the ones that are still coming. So if you look at some of the Gartner hype cycles and things like that, they'll give you an indication of some of the up-and-coming exponential technologies. If you look at our website, I've got some interesting links there to Singularity University, for example, where they also discuss some of the more interesting exponential technologies. Some of the ones that we think might be ready to go are things like artificial intelligence, augmented reality, blockchain technology. These are all up-and-coming exponential technologies which are at your hands. We've got our partners IBM here with us today, and we'll be introducing them a little bit later on. But they are sponsoring the event on the one hand, but also making available to you some of their cloud services, which include blockchain and AI, which are two of the big exponential technologies which we hope to see you explore this weekend. That's all I have from the topic and theme point of view. I'm going to hand it over to Tiani now to give you a little bit more information around preparing for the event and what you can expect to see on Saturday. Tiani?
Hello, guys. My name is Tiani Ngonyama from Geekulcha. We'll be with you guys facilitating the hackathon this coming weekend. So TADHack is fairly open. You are free to play with any technologies that you want. You are free to develop for township economies as such. So it's designed to make sure that it looks at emerging technologies. It looks at what's there to disrupt the way of life as we know it. So if you go to the hackathon portal itself, tadhack.mtn.co.za, that's where you get the resources. Like one of the things you'll start looking at is the MTN API. So the MTN API, it has these three uses. First of all, for SMS, USSD payments as well. So if you want to see what kind of a gateway, what kind of a platform you can use, go have a look at the MTN API. So MTN exposes API to third parties through a global platform, exposing API to various services across its entire African and Middle East footprint. They are platform provider for the platform and a sponsor at TADHack. So this is Huawei. So Huawei is one of the sponsors for this hackathon, and they will be there showcasing and also helping you throughout the hackathon in terms of how can you effectively work with the different API sets that are provided. You are free, of course, to use any API platform or any data source that you might want to use for the hackathon. So you can go through to the MTN developer community site, and also on the portal as well, you do have the code snippets in terms of how to access the different API sets, the different payloads. There is one for SMS, USSD, and payments as well. So that is tadhack.mtn.co.za. So blockchain is one of the key focus areas, areas of interest for this hackathon as well. How do we use blockchain to improve the way of life in the township? How do you use blockchain to disrupt the markets as such? How do you make sure that the township economy accelerates? How do you make sure that access to financial institutions, helping spaza shops? How do you help entrepreneurs in the township? How do you perhaps help the customer of the future for MTN? So you'll never know. Throughout this weekend, you might come up with the best solution that MTN can use for the future, and you'll get to work with MTN as such. So obviously, as other hackathons, you are free to use any technological stacks of your choice, but the IBM team as well, they'll be going through some of the tools that they have, and you may use them as platforms of choice as well. But otherwise, you are free to use any platform of which you need to look at. So if ever you are looking at developing something that addresses a customer experience, let's say a solution for MTN in this case, you might want to maybe look at platforms such as hellopeter.com, platforms such as, there are a variety of them. Just keep an eye on all social media platforms. So we'll keep you updated through the hackathon portal itself. And you can also find inspiration on the portal as well in terms of what can get you ahead, or what kind of APIs, what kind of tools you should be looking out for. So those things are already there. So on the hackathon portal, there is a tab for resources. So these are the resources that you can use ahead of the hackathon, and the resources there are mostly from the main partners of the hackathon. So that is Huawei, IBM, and TCS. So at this case, IBM will go through the different the different tools that you could use, but some of the things that are there, obviously. The theme for the hackathon, technology for townships, democratizing the exponentials. So the theme is thoroughly explained there as well. And then also you get introduction to VoIP innovations, introduction to the IBM Digital Nation Africa and such. But then let's have a look at VoIP quickly. So through VoIP, there's a video there that explains how you can basically use the different APIs and platforms that are there. One video there in particular, VoIP innovations is programmable. Yeah, so about 2 years ago, we're just talking VoIP, we're just talking in terms of what could be done for Africa. But this weekend, they can actually get to work on some applications. So think also, how do you then disrupt the web real-time communication, the web RTC technologies as such? So those are some of the things you can be looking at. How do you apply blockchain for a variety of technologies, and then also AI. How do we make use of artificial intelligence to change the way of life? So you will be working in groups, obviously. It's a team effort as well, and with your team, just make sure that your skill sets complement each other. Okay, so there's a comment. It will be good to host such a hackathon in one of the townships as well, taking the event to the target market. Yes, that is one of the most important thing.
That's a really good comment, because one of the judging criteria that we're going to be using is user centricity, right? So the topic is technology for townships, and we want to encourage everybody that's entering the competition to take some time to empathize with the users that whose problems they're trying to solve. So if your aim is to address a problem for a particular type of person, if you can, spend some time before the event, before you get here on Saturday, observing what it is that people do. Just make some notes. Try and identify what it is that you can improve in their lives just from observations. There's a specific technique that some of us are familiar with called design thinking. I encourage you to read up about it. Go and Google what I'm talking about, and we'll try and put some posts also on the website around design thinking. But design thinking is essentially the approach that you take when coming up with ideas, where you start off with the user. Don't worry about the business case. Don't worry about the technical feasibility. Start off with the user. Start off with understanding what their challenges are, what adaptations they've got to make in their lives to get around certain difficult tasks, and try and solve that. If you start with that in mind, your chances of having a good idea are a lot better. So yes, the idea of hosting a hackathon closer to a township makes a lot of sense. And perhaps for next year's event, we'll think of doing something like that. But before you get to the event, by all means, please spend time with your target audience. Try and understand what the challenges are. Get a first-hand feel for it. Yeah.
Yes. So TADHack.mtn.co.za, that is your one-stop go. So you find different resources in there. And then there's also a specific link as well for TAD Global. So within TAD Global, you can also get to understand more what the hackathon is all about, and then also get to see from previous years as well what kind of technologies were people using. And also it's important to also spend time trying to understand what other people doing, and not to replicate things so much. But what that you need to think about is what is your USP, what is your unique selling point in the solution that you'll be developing as well. So there is a judging criteria. It already outlines so some of the aspects as well. So when you come through to the hackathon, stick to the judging criteria, because that's how you would basically win the hackathon. That's important to stick to that. But in terms of other resources, in terms of tools, pointers, also where to put your focus on, to do follow on TADHack JHB, and that's where some of the resources are being posted ahead of the hackathon. So what platforms can you possibly build the solutions for? So mobile apps, of course. Mobile apps are still a big thing. Life has gone mobile, so you can build a mobile app. You can build a mobile application. You can also build a data visualization platform as well, to basically tell a story and basically make sure that people understand the way of life as possible. So, an advice as well: have a look at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. That can also help you in terms of trying to align some of the solutions, while helping your team come up with a better solution for the hackathon. Also, have a look at the what we call the integrated development plan. So if you go to a website of your local municipality, they set out what we call an IDP. An IDP is a 5-year plan in which the current administration is looking at. Because if you're going to be building something for township, at the end of the day, somehow you will need the municipality to be able to adopt that. So make sure that it is speaking to that plan as well, to understand where's the municipality looking at for the next 5 years, where's the national government looking at for the next 5 years, and then build your solutions in line with the plan as well. Any questions?
So while we're waiting for questions, I've got the judging criteria open here in front of me. I can maybe run through those. It might be useful for participants. So the first one that we want to focus on is impact. And what we mean by impact is what chance or what impact does your solution have on the target space that you're trying to solve? And this comes back down to the theme, which is solving challenges for townships, right? So we're going to be specifically looking out for the amount of impact that your solution will have in the problem space. The next one is around good design. And I hinted to design thinking a little bit earlier. Please read up a little bit about it. There's some good videos on YouTube also around design thinking. But there's other broader topics like user-centric design, UX. So all of those aspects of your solution will be judged under the good design category. The third one we have is resourcefulness. So we're going to be making available technology and platforms through our API and also through our partners API, IBM and company. We'll be judging at least on one criteria how well you use those technologies in your solutions as well. The fourth one is around viability. We recognize that in order to have sustained impact, if you want your solution to really stick around for a long time, the likelihood that it will be able to do that, or that you will be able to sustainably solve a solution or problem, it needs to be financially beneficial. You need to be earning a decent amount of revenue to keep something going. So business case will be something that we will look at, and our colleagues at Geekulcha will help you through the process of coming up with what your business plan looks like. So that is one of the judging criteria. And the last one that we've added on is something called the wow factor. We've left a special category in there where you can really blow the socks off the judges. We want to see what you're able to achieve in 48 hours or more, and we've left a special category for you to just impress us.
Yeah, so we've already outlined some of the technologies, from blockchain, AI, and so forth. So if you can disrupt the way of doing things around that, if you can come up with a new, build up new models, make sure that, automation is the way of life, but then your solution needs to be speaking towards the way of life, way of business, way of things in the township, basically. Yeah. All right. So we'll be keeping you guys updated with all the tools through the different platforms, social, your Twitter, Facebook. Also, make use of what is available to you through the hackathon portal as well. TADHack.mtn.co.za.
Excellent. We plan to have one more webinar tomorrow. One of our partners will be going through a little bit more detail around the platforms and technology that they'll be making available, and that's IBM. But for a short introduction, we're going to ask our IBM colleagues to just pop in and say hello and tell you a little bit about the Digital Nation Africa program, which IBM has kicked off a few months ago. So,
hi everyone, I'm Luzina from IBM, and I'm a developer advocate. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the tools that are going to be available to use at the hackathon. Remember that you spoke about a wow factor in the judging criteria, and I think some of our APIs and tools might help you get that wow factor. Actually, they will get you that wow factor. So before I begin, let's just go into what are these tools that we're talking about. So what we are offering is in the Ibm Cloud Platform. On there, there's a range of tools and APIs, and you get from databases, data analytics, you get DevOps tooling, as well as IoT IoT tools that you can use as well. And then there's also the Watson catalog. So when we speak about Watson, you speak about AI, and that's where the really cool things come in. So in order to access all these tools and to get access to the platform, you'll have to register and you'll get a light account. So the link to register is ibm.biz/TADHack 2018. I think someone can just send that to the chat for us. Then you can just go on, get an account. It's a very quick sign up, and you'll have access to all these tools. And then yeah, so that's IBM Cloud. Just to go into a little bit more detail around what are these cognitive services that are available. So I mentioned Watson, and a lot of people are very they often get confused when people speak about Watson, because they think it's something like Siri. And yes, you can use Watson to create something like Siri, but it's much larger than that. So within there's also visual recognition service that you can use within your solution. So what that does is it can analyze an object and can tell you what is that object. So you can pull entities from that object. There's also something called the personality insight. So if you have a text, you have a body of text, right? So it could be a speech, it could be an essay, it could be an email as well. You can feed it into the service and it can tell you what kind of personality does that author have. So it's quite a cool service. And Yusuf mentioned that we'll be having a session tomorrow where we'll be doing a deep dive, and maybe we can just do a little demo around that as well. So yeah, so don't forget to sign up. It's ibm.biz/TADHack 2018. Yeah. And then also, I just want to speak around a little bit about DNA. So that's Digital Nation Africa. So that's an initiative that started very recently, and it's across Africa and Egypt as well. Well, Egypt is in Africa, sorry. Anyway, so, sorry, I just wanted to go to my notes. So within, the whole idea of Digital Nation Africa is to upskill developers in Africa. A lot of Africans don't really have access to the latest technology. They don't have resources to learn the latest programming skills that they need to go out there into the workplace. So Digital Nation Africa tackles these issues. And within this platform, you have different levels that you can play around with. So there's Explorer. So people who have very basic literacy when it comes to the new emerging technologies, you just like to know what is blockchain. You've heard this term, you've heard this buzzword of blockchain and IoT, but what is it exactly? So if you just want to learn those and cover those very basics of these emerging technologies, that's available on Digital Nation Africa. Then there's also Explorer. Innovator. So with Innovator, it's okay, you've got these great ideas, you've heard about blockchain, you know what the technology is capable of, but how do you use it? How do you bring it into your solutions and applications? How do you practically use these tools that are available to you? And then there's New Color. So as I mentioned, in Africa, developers or rather individuals in Africa do not really have access to these tools. And also it's very limiting, because now as they're trying to get jobs and now you're trying to get into the industry, you might not necessarily have the skills that are required when you are getting that job or trying to get into the industry. So a lot of job positions are available right now, or job roles or titles are available now, weren't available back in whatever year before I was born, probably. But and this is going to continue happening. It's a trend that's happening. There are going to be these emerging job titles and job roles that will be coming up. Things like data scientists. Data scientists weren't around before. You just work with you would just be a database administrator. But now this is a whole new role, and it requires new skills. So in order for Africans or anyone that needs the skills to be able to have the skill, to be able to fit into that new role or fit into these emerging roles, they need to work with these emerging technologies as well. So on Digital Nation Africa, you can develop your skills, and then you can align these skills to emerging, to the job market and to the industry, and see where you could be placed. So that's Digital Nation Africa, and you can access it on ibm.biz/devx-dna. We'll share it on the chat as well. It's really fun to play around. There's a crazy amount of resources. But apart from Digital Nation Africa, we also have something called Ibm Code. So Ibm Code is for developers in globally, right? And there's a lot of you get patterns. So what code patterns are is it will show you, okay, so you want to build a blockchain application, and you want to maybe you want to use some natural language understanding within your application as well. How do you tie these up, and how do you build an end-to-end application using these tools or these APIs? So on IBM Code, you get the code patterns that will show you, that will give you the steps and say, this is what you need to do. So that's also something that we will cover in tomorrow's session. So you should take a look at that. The link for that one is developer.ibm.com. So it's great for developers to play around. You also get access to source code for some of the solutions. You get tutorials, how-to, some nice articles as well. And remember that on IBM Cloud, I know I mentioned Watson and I spoke about artificial intelligence, but we also have blockchain services available. So there's a whole blockchain platform that you can use. I also mentioned IoT. So there's an IoT platform. If you have sensors that you need to pull data from, you can connect it to the platform. You can pull that data, and from there you can do analysis on there. And analysis could occur in the Watson Studio, so that's where data science, you can run your machine learning models, and you can run your notebooks, your Python notebooks as well. So there's a whole range of services in tooling available. And it'll be really exciting to see how these are going to be used within this hackathon event. I can't wait to see what solutions are going to be born out of this. Just again, the link, it's ibm.biz/TADHack. I think it's been posted on the chat. So just go sign up, get an account, and tomorrow we will have a session. We will send out communication about what time the session will be. And the agenda will just be a deep dive into the platform, how you can go and create an application on there. And we'll do a little demo as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Lizzie. Sure. So we'll share all those links on the website and on Twitter as well as we go along. A lot of the DNA stuff is already on the website, but we'll add more as we go along. The details of the webinar will be shared later on this evening, hopefully, and probably around 2 o'clock tomorrow at the same time. So just to recap, the theme of the event is technology for townships and democratizing the exponentials. You're free to come up with any idea that you want. You're free to use any technology you want. It really is up to you. All we need from you is your creativity and bring along your laptop. You're welcome to come and hack overnight over the weekend or pop in and out. It's really up to you. The judging will begin promptly on Sunday at 1 o'clock. So you've got from Saturday morning 7 a.m. up until around about 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon to complete your hack. We've got the guys from Geekulcha. They'll be helping you along the process as well. They'll be helping you come up with your business plan and introduce you to the business model canvas and things like that. We'll have our technology partners available on the day. So if you have any more questions on the day, they'll help you get going as well, including setting up your accounts on the platforms we mentioned and things like that. If you have any questions, please pop us a note on any one of the channels. The comments are open on the website itself, so you can leave us comments there. We've got a group